Hello. Thanks for listening. So I put in a long shift at work this week. I do home health care, so I'm there 24/7 when I'm there. It's finally getting to go home, see my wife. So I'm kind of excited about that. But thanks for joining. So I just stopped at Walmart to grab a couple things, which Walmart's basically, I live in a small town anyway, so Walmart's basically the only game in town. We had some smaller grocery stores, but they went out of business before this year, and unfortunately, we're kind of left just, there's an Aldi's, I like Aldi's, but there's not really many mom and pop options, and then with the lockdown, that's going to hurt them even more. But I'm not going to pretend like I was some great person that was never shopping at Walmart. I shop there a lot, for better or worse. But anyways, it just made me think of this. So they were doing occupancy numbers counts, so you have to wait outside in a line because of the COVID lockdown still. Hopefully this doesn't get too loud. I'm on the interstate. But yeah, so because of the COVID lockdown, we had to wait in line. And I just couldn't help but think, if I was a looter or a rioter, they would hold the door open for me. I mean, honestly, that's the insanity that we're at right now. You have to be treated like a sheep if you want to go and just pick up groceries for your family. But if you want to burn down something, you're good to go. I mean, I thought about just shouting Black Lives Matter while I was waiting in line, and they would have probably been like, "You're right, sir, please come in." "Oh, no, don't bring your wallet, just take whatever you like." And it's no exaggeration here in Pennsylvania, where our Governor Wolf called people cowards that wanted to end the lockdown and go back to work, said that he would come after their license to operate, said that the counties that allowed it, he would take away their funding that was necessary to get through the economic depression that he caused with his lockdown. And yet, he found time to go to a protest violating his own order. Not only that, but the photo op he took's real nice, standing right next to someone holding a sign saying Blue Lives Murder. If you're a police officer, I mean, at this point, why would you be a cop? The money sucks. The job is incredibly stressful, and everyone in positions of cultural power says you're a racist. The people that your governors, they hate you. So why do it? Got police to come harass business owners that wanted to stay open. How did that work out for you, state police? That's why you should not accept unconstitutional orders, because now he's throwing you under the bus. He would be more than happy to celebrate the very people that are attacking you in the cities of at least Pittsburgh, and Philly's been really bad. It's just, and by the way, I'm outraged. I'm outraged by here again. I'm here in Pennsylvania, so I'm absolutely outraged that Governor Wolf called me a coward because I wanted people to go back to work, and said that the people that went back to work, he would come after and take away their livelihood, while he's out there LARPing and getting a photo op. I'm outraged. How about the Republicans in Pennsylvania? Where are they at? I'm making videos. I'm talking to people. I'm just a regular guy who's working like 110 hours a week. I'm finding time. I'm staying up until 3 a.m. because I'm so outraged, trying to do what I can, telling people when I get off work, here's what's going on. The Republicans, they can't be bothered. We have a Democratic Party that is ran by people that hate this country, and anytime anyone goes against them, they shout racism. And we have a Republican Party that's too cowardly to do anything about it. And by the way, at the top levels, the Republicans, most of them more than happy to allow this corruption to occur. Right there with it. I've had people tell me that I'm immoral for not supporting riots. I support the protesters. I disagree with their message. I think that it's racially divisive, but I understand them being angry about the murder of George Floyd. I think that there is a need to, anytime you have authority figures such as police, there can be bad apples that will lead to corruption, and we should constantly be making sure people in positions of authority understand that we, the people, are their boss. And so we make sure that there is proper insight, proper supervision of these groups. So I'm all for that. But I have people telling me literally, I have friends that don't want to talk to me anymore because I'm against the riots. Because I said if Democratic mayors refuse to accept the National Guard's help, that yeah, even though I hate this idea, that maybe that means Trump should have to send in some military. Which, by the way, he hasn't yet. Just so everyone's clear on that. He hasn't. So the tyrannical president that you keep hearing about, the people that want the cities to burn and say that Trump's a tyrant for sending in the military, he hasn't sent in the military. He just threatened. Maybe he threatened because he knew that the people that are paying the rioters and setting these riots up would pull back a little if he told them, we're going to send in the military. But I have people upset at me because I was against the rioting. If you think the riot, I debated this guy Destiny the other day. Let me say real quick, that debate's up on the channel. You can check it out. I'm going to do a video maybe today explaining what was going on there. Let me just say this. I do not like Destiny's arguments. I find them repugnant. The idea that he supports some rioting. He only supports rioting against the police, against government buildings. Which is stupid because, one, that's immoral and unjustifiable in my opinion anyways. But second, even if you could somehow say that's justified, you know damn well that the rioters aren't just hitting government buildings. So it's stupid. But let me just say about, and I know you'll watch that, you'll be like, oh, I hate Sky, blah, blah, blah. That's fine, you're entitled to. He was nothing but nice to me behind the scenes, just so you know. So, but I'll put out a video giving context to that debate. You can check it out. But anyways, this idea, if you support rioting right now, if you support that, why aren't you putting your address, and looting, why aren't you putting your address out there and welcoming rioters and looters into your home? Why is it that a bunch of predominantly white people that I've been seeing, highly educated liberals, they're for the rioting, but not in their neighborhoods? Oh, these riots are necessary and justified. Yes, burn down those black neighborhoods. Oh, how moral of you. What a superior person. Oh, this country's systemically racist and I have privilege. Okay, then give your home away. Why don't you personally, if you've benefited from this privilege and you're part of systemic racism, hey, by all means, no one's stopping you. You go ahead. You do what you need to do to right that evil grievance. You're systemically racist after all. That's what they believe. They believe all white people have the original sin. So go ahead, give away your house. Go ahead. Oh, no, you don't want to offer your house up for looting and rioting. You don't want to offer your possessions. You just think, while I'm in the safety of my home sipping my soy latte, I'm glad they're burning down these black neighborhoods. But I'm the racist for being upset about it. It's so stupid. The one good thing that's came out of this is I'm seeing people like Matthew Iglesias, Michael Tracy, other people that have been left-wing journalists coming out yesterday and apologizing because they realize when people like me were talking about how cancerous this identity politics, cultural Marxism was and how powerful it was, they laughed at me and they said, no. And now the New York Times had an article by Tom Cotton, a senator, an op-ed, in which that senator defended that if these Democratic mayors and governors refuse to accept the National Guard and continue to allow their cities to burn down, that perhaps Trump was right in his duty to defend us from both foreign and domestic enemies to send in the military. This, by the way, media people use all the time. 58% of people in this country, including 40% of black people, I believe, that were polled, never mind, that could be a different study, so don't quote me on that. But 58% of people agree that they should send in the military. Not that Trump suggested it, agree that he should send in the military. And the New York Times said that op-ed, they had to remove it because it was violence against the rest of their writers. Now, I have been wear a MAGA hat, that's violence to them. Punch someone in the face with a MAGA hat, that's free speech. Oh, no, that's just fringe lunatics. Well, there's the premier paper in the world, we're told. That's what they think. You can't even entertain the idea of ending riot. That's how far left and how far mainstream this is going. We literally have people in positions of leadership in the Democratic Party suggesting banning all police, banning prisons. This isn't a couple college professors. And I warned people, and so did many others. We warned them. We said this stuff is crazy. Academia is becoming insane. The people on college campuses that I were dealing with that were insane in 2007, 2008, now they're out there in the real world in positions of leadership. We could have done something back then. Instead, your tax dollars went to fund these institutions that were training the communists that want to overthrow the country. That's what happened. And it wasn't just academia, it was everything. It was the media. Is there anybody in like, I keep hearing about how, these protesters, no one listens to them. Please show me any media company that's not for Black Lives Matter. Please show me any politician that does. You might get one or two Republicans. You are not the insurgency if the establishment agrees and supports you. You're not the insurgency. These people think they're fighting a revolution. Against who? The black people whose neighborhoods you're burning down? Lastly, I'm almost home. I'll be doing stuff tonight. Some nice people reached out to me. They do this kind of debate thing where it's 4 Republicans and 4 Democrats and they debate issues. I guess I'm one of the Republicans tonight. I don't think it's a big channel, but I don't care. I think it's important to reach out and talk to people, so it should be fun. I'll be putting a link up to that later. That's 8:30 Eastern time. But lastly, here's what I think one of the things, I don't know, I guess, I hate to say this, but just a thought experiment I had. Fine. Let's have a city, go ahead. Minneapolis, you want to ban police? Do it. De Blasio wants his city to burn down? Fine. Here's what we do. Trump offers the National Guard. If they say no, Trump says, fair enough, no National Guard, and I'm not going to send the military in because you'll say that's tyrannical. However, you don't get a dime of federal funding ever again. You want your city to burn? Fine. We ain't paying for it. Go ahead, let it burn. Go ahead, end the police. We don't care. And it's tragic to the people that live in these cities, because I actually believe most people don't want this. There's a lot of Democrats, even moderates, that do. They want the burning because, they think it'll help get Donald Trump, just like that debate I did with that guy, Destiny. He admits, yes, these Democrats think the riots will hurt Trump. That's why they're doing it. That's a big part. He also says it's because of systemic racism. But that's the admission. That's what they think is going to occur. But I think mostly people living in these cities that are getting burned down, like you can see it. You see these black business owners they talk to. I saw a guy last night, and you could tell the type of, I'm reading into this, but you could tell the type of guy is. He was a black guy, and you could tell he's like my dad or someone who's not one to show emotion. And he talks about how it's his house. And he's like, look, I put everything I have into this house for my wife and kids. And they burned it to the ground. And you can tell he's fighting back tears. He's like, but I'm not the type of guy to complain. We're just going to try to rebuild. How did burning that guy's house down help? What was that? See, my liberal friends that are in gated communities or they live far away from these cities, these inner cities, they're like, oh, Rob, you're terrible if you don't support these riots. Yep, because that guy deserved to lose his house, right? Hey, as long as you're happy. As soon as the riots would, go ahead, put your address out. Please, everyone, here's where I live. I support your cause. Come burn my house down. Oh, no, that wouldn't be right. They'd be the first people that would be crying. So it's shameful to say, but I don't know what it's going to take. When you believe this lie about how the country's racist and cops are killing unarmed black men, hunting them down, when you believe that, when that becomes the official narrative, so much so that what we're told is the premier journalist paper, the New York Times, says to even question it, it's violence. To question that narrative is violence. To question whether or not we should be allowing rioters is violence. That's what the New York Times says. When we've fallen that far, what can we do? You can't fight back. If you fight back, that's violent. That's what they want. They punch you in the face. When you punch back, they say, see, you're violent. My punch was free speech because you're a Nazi and you're a racist. You punching me back proves that you're a racist Nazi. We could burn down cities, and that's free speech, but if Trump sends in military or police to try to deal with it, that proves he's a tyrannical Nazi. That's how insane things have gone. So, one of the things I've learned in life is when people are engaged in this sort of insane narrative, what you do is you just approach it from their end even more. You're right. Yep, you're right. Police are racist. Get rid of them. Yep. There you go. If you're, like, honestly, I don't know what kind of union the police have. And again, I have problems with police brutality and things like that. I think there are real world reforms we should make, but we can't make those reforms. Why? Because we're pretending it's all about racism. So if you say the problem is police are out of racist reasons hunting and killing unarmed black men, and that's not happening, how can you solve the problem? You're addressing a problem that doesn't exist, so there's no way to solve it. Instead of saying there's a problem with some police using too much force, then you could, if you address the problem honestly, you could say, okay. Meanwhile, the people in the establishment that are screwing over poor people of all races are laughing their asses off because the races are at each other's throat. It's the same old trick that they've been using for hundreds of years. But now they've been playing the long game. They've influenced culture. They influenced academia for decades. And don't think that the people on the right are much better. They might not have done this, but they let it happen. It's been up to what? People like me, people like you to point out, like, what's going on with this insanity. Oh, it's not that bad. So I don't know, I guess. And the police. Not in my town, not in my neighborhood. When I see a cop, I'm going to thank them. I'm going to say, I'm sorry. Look, I saw this guy, what was his name? Alan something, he's a comic book writer. And he attended this anarchy convention. He believes, like, he's out there, man. This guy believes in sigil magic, which is, it's basically law of attraction type stuff, but you can break down symbols, and if you think about that and have this positive energy, it's not stuff I believe, but whatever. But he's giving this speech to this, like, convention basically on anarchy and communism, and he starts talking about police, and the crowd's getting antsy, and he's like, listen, he's like, I don't want to be a cop. I would hate it. Same with me. I'm with this person. He's like, I would hate it. And I don't like law enforcement. But they need to be there. Someone's got to do it. So why instead of, like, yes, if you could pick a cop out that's doing something terrible or a force out that's doing something terrible, fine. But what are you going to do? Call them all racist and disband them? Is that how you want to live? If the Democrats think that this is a systemically racist country, and we're made up of what, close to 70%, 60-some% white people, and there's only 13% black people, so you want to ban law enforcement, and all these white people are racist, what do you think's going to happen then? If that's under the Democrat worldview, let's get rid of law enforcement and leave it just be the Wild West. You want to shoot and kill someone? To hell with it. Go for it. No police force. No prisons. What do you think's going to happen if it is a racist society? How can you be against things like ownership of guns if you don't believe in prisons and police? If there's no law, why are you foaming at the mouth when I want to buy an AR-15? You're against law enforcement. You're against laws. Oh no, we just don't want the police. What? I don't even know. It doesn't make sense. People are saying defund the police. Ask them what that means. Defund police, so what? Get rid of them? I don't know. It was a catchy slogan. So, if you're a cop out there and you're one of the good ones, thank you. Not only do you do a difficult job, and again, I'll be the first if you step over the line. I'm critical of you. I'm critical of all law enforcement. Anyone that has government-sanctioned authority over me, I'm skeptical of. Every single person. Every single one. But I do want to say, I can't think of a job where you make crap money, put yourself in the line of fire, and everyone thinks you're a racist that has cultural power. It's thankless. And that's what's happening. We could be having a conversation about the need to fix police brutality. Instead, they go so far in saying that all police are racist, we should defund all police, that now people that were outraged by the death of George Floyd and said, yeah, something needs to happen, we have no choice but to defend the police. Because it's like, well, yeah, those police officers were bad. And yes, that department needs to fix that. And yes, maybe we need some sort of oversight, a civilian oversight in a national level. And yes, maybe we should be doing things like making sure all police have body cams, you know. Instead, you have to start with this is how insane it is. You want to argue like, yeah, I seriously want to fix problems in the black community. I do. It's a damn outrage that things are as bad as they are in some of these communities. It is. I'm not saying, look, I'm all about personal responsibility. But as a country, we should say, we need to try to do better. What's going on? I have my own philosophies that instead of that focusing on race is the problem. If we stopped focusing on race, then after a couple generations, things would get better. But there's all things we could do, like coming together, focus on poverty, things like that would help. Well, yeah, Nate, personal responsibility only goes so far. But what are we supposed to say? When we completely eliminate the idea of personal responsibility, this is the conclusion you come to. Hey, what's up, everyone? You come to the conclusion that, well, riots are okay because police are killing unarmed black men because they're racist. But wait a minute. Look at all the homicides that are occurring in these communities. Is it possible that there are more violent interactions in those communities with police because there's more violence in those police? Oh, no. There's no personal responsibility for the people actually murdering others. No personal responsibility there. Instead, it must be racism. That must be it. So yeah, personal responsibility only goes so far, but to completely eliminate it leads to these type of situations we're seeing. And if each individual embraces the idea of personal responsibility, riots are wrong, but we have to ask the question, why are people doing this? I've answered that question. The reason that people are doing this is because the establishment has selectively pushed narratives that this country is racist and pushed the lie that police are purposely hunting and killing unarmed black men out of racist reasons. When that narrative is so pervasive that Chase Bank and Netflix and Amazon and every Democrat and at least a third of the Republicans are pushing that narrative, what would you do if you're in that community? If you were told that this is a racist country your entire life, and that if you were told every time that you didn't know that there's relatively little police homicides that are occurring to unarmed black men, 9 last year, 9. What was it, 5,000 something black men killed last year? 9 were unarmed and killed by the police. Of those 5 were personally attacking the police when they were shot. More drugs per capita? I don't know. Personal responsibility doesn't factor into that. There's probably more drugs per capita in those communities because there's more poverty per capita, and there's pretty good evidence that shows that when you are poor, you're more likely to commit substance abuse. Also, we glorify drug use, particularly in these communities, as something that's to be celebrated. The people right now that are some of the biggest voices saying defund the cops and cops are all racist are out there, they're, Ice Cube and them pushing albums like Cop Killer and things like that. Glorify every song they do, glorifying drug use. I don't have a problem with it, by the way. I think art is art. Do what you want. But when that becomes the prevailing narrative in that culture, and it has nothing to do with the inferiority of someone based on their race at all. But these are the discussions we could be having. Instead, we're lighting fires. Why? In the black community. It's where the fires are. And you're wrong, Nate, to say no one supports the riots. That's garbage. I know you know who Destiny is. Go watch the debate I did with him yesterday. By the way, Nate's a good friend of mine. I would say it's fair to say, Nate, you're on the left wing, right? Watch that debate. Destiny says, yes, the riots are good. So do many Democrats. We need to be having these conversations. The Republicans failed. I ran as a Republican. I asked them, the first question I asked, what are we doing to reach demographics we don't normally reach? Like young people, like black people. You know what I was told? We go after the low-hanging fruit. So can you blame People in the inner city that don't want to vote Republican? Of course not. I wouldn't either. Why would I vote for people that say, you're not even worth talking to? Meanwhile, we have the Democrats. What's their solution? They run all these cities. Democrat mayors, chief of police, governors. But who says protests aren't? Where is this myth that people are... Yes, he said protests are good. So did I. So did every Republican. So did everyone on this chat. No one cares about... No one's saying that peaceful protests are bad. I don't agree with the motivation behind the protests as far as the racial angle, the anger of George Floyd's death. You're damn right I'm with them. And even if I would disagree with the entire protest, I support the right to protest. I don't know how many times people have to... Show me someone who's saying that they shouldn't be allowed to protest. Show me anyone. We get accused of conflating the protesters with the rioters. We're not the ones doing that. That's the left. Not everyone in the left, but the establishment left. Oh, when Trump talks about these rioters, how dare he? Peaceful protesters. Trump didn't say the peaceful protesters. Trump came out and said, quote, I am a friend of all the peaceful protesters. He came out immediately and said, this death was heinous. He came out immediately and said, my DOJ is looking into this. But because he talks tough about the rioters and the domestic terrorists, all of a sudden he hates protest. It's ridiculous. It's the same crap they do with illegal immigration. I love legal immigrants. I think we accept too many of them, but every single legal immigrant that I personally know are some of the best Americans I know. But because I say I have a problem with open borders and illegal immigration, oh, so you hate brown people, you hate all immigrants. No, I'm not conflating legal immigrants with illegal immigrants at all. Yet that's what the opponents to me want to say. What are we supposed to do? What, just leave them burn? We have to pretend the riot. Well, how come 95% of the people out there are peaceful protesters? Why are you focusing on the riots? Same stuff in Charlottesville. There was one murder. We had two sides that came and started beating the crap out of each other. I don't like anyone that was on either of those sides. But there's no one said, well, it was only one person that got ran over, so... Why are we focusing on that one person? You want to know why we're focusing on that one person? Because that's what the most damaging thing was. Does anyone really think that we should be like, well, wait a minute, what was the message behind the Charlottesville protest? Let's not focus on this woman getting murdered. Of course not. And they're right not to. Look at what this led to. This woman got murdered. Now, was there crazy stuff going on both sides? Yes. But this idea of, we just have to turn a blind eye. Like, see, our media is basically refusing to cover the riots. You have people at the head of the media like Cuomo saying, hey, why do these protests have to be peaceful? Oh, of course, I know the Charlottesville thing was a mess. It was people on both sides. That's right. But now we just have to, if you talk about these riots, then somehow you're not for the peaceful protest. Who said that? I'm outraged that the riots are taking away from the peaceful protester. I don't know how many times on my channel I've been saying, like, it's so sad. Here's the order of victims. 1, George Floyd and his family and loved ones. Terrible. 2nd, and this is equal with that, anyone who's died as a result of these riots. Like, what was his name? David Korn. And there's other people. Innocent people that were killed. 3rd, the people that were beaten and severely harmed by these rioters. Yeah, you're right, Nate. A lot have been started by rich white kids. Exactly my point. Left-wing, rich white kids. Which, Nate, I could talk to you in private sometimes, but people me and you know are for the riots. But they don't want riots at their house. It's fine to go into these black communities and burn things down. Now we have black protesters saying, get the hell out of our community to these anarchists. They don't want them there. They want to peacefully protest. A lot of them. And why? Of course, why wouldn't you? Even if you think that a riot's necessary, why the hell would you want it to be in your community? So it's people from outside a lot of time that are coming. And then, of course, there's dumb people, from the communities that just want to loot and pillage and whatever. Yeah, I saw the Veritas video. It wasn't as good as I thought that they would hype it, but what it showed is there are meetings. This idea of, Antifa, no, there's no meetings. Of course there are. Of course there are centralized. Where do you think they're getting their money to do all this crap? Right, it's Antifa kids starting it. Do I think Antifa is using the riots as a front to push anarchy? No, it's communism, not anarchy. If Antifa was really about anarchy, then the biggest thing they would have protested was the COVID lockdowns. Instead, in Germany, they rioted and protest against people who wanted to end the lockdowns. Anarchy means you're against state control. Can you think of a better example of state control than the government telling you you can't go to church, you can't go to work? So they're communists is what they are. They're being used because people, and I know it's cliche to say George Soros. I can't say Soros is personally paying them, but people like Soros that want a globalist system. They want neo-feudalism. They want this sort of communism. Communism to them isn't about helping the working class. It's about total state control of power. And they control the state, so if they could get more power for the state, that's good for them. Then they erode national borders. They make you so you're not self-sufficient. You have to be dependent on the government. That's what they want. And these Antifa kids are just pawns. They don't understand. Half them just think it's hip and cool. Half the ones that believe in the cause, they think that somehow they're going to get a seat of power. They're not. As soon as, you mark my words, once Donald Trump's out of office and we have a Democrat, all of a sudden if Antifa decides to go to the White House, wait and see how much the media and sports entertainers and all these people, see how much they applaud them then. If it was Barack Obama and Antifa was trying to burn down the White House like they've been, you think that the media would be like, oh yeah, these are noble, peaceful protesters. They have legitimate grievances. You think that would be the case? Or would they be saying, these are racist Nazis? Oh my God! I don't know. I gotta go. I promised my in-laws I would. You're pretty sure Biden is as much anti-Antifa as the current administration? Then why is his administration paying to bail out rioters? Has anyone in Trump's team paid bail for the people that were arrested? Anyone? But we have Biden bragging about it. Thank you to the police out there that are good. Maybe you should consider taking a holiday for 2 weeks. Give these people the utopia they want. Nate, there's literally people in the Democratic Party saying defund the police. How? That's like, so we have riots and they're suggesting defund the police. That's like saying, oh, COVID's coming, defund the hospitals. Meanwhile, the same people on the left, and by the way, I criticize Trump, as everybody knows here, over and over, screaming my head off about Trump going with these lockdowns. But the same Democrats that pushed those lockdowns, like in Pennsylvania, Tom Wolf, that said I was going to kill people if I went to work, say that it's great that we're out there protesting. Now the health experts that told us, oh, if you're out there, if you go to your job, you're putting everyone's life at risk. Now they're saying, but actually, fighting systemic racism is better because even though COVID will still spread, systemic racism is more of a virus to the community. So that lets you know how important they thought COVID was. It's just, it is becoming blatantly obvious. Nate, I respect you. There are plenty of people, our buddy Tom that ran my campaign. I am not the type of right-winger that's like, I refuse to talk to people on the left. That's why I'm reaching out trying to debate people on the left. That's why, look, I yell and scream on here. This is part of who I am. But I think that people that know me personally can say, I am genuinely one of the most polite people. I respect people that disagree with me. I try to live my life in a way that shows that my actions are more important than my words, and I try to be a nice person to other people. I'm reaching out to the other side. But we have people on the other side that are literally suggesting defund the police, everything's racist, you have original sin based on the color of your skin, and these aren't fringe beliefs. This has become the mainstream. And you know, if you were in the debate community, what it looks like. You know what it feels like to walk into a room and be told you're evil because you're white. That's the prevailing belief now on the left. That's insanity. We are never going to come together as a country if that's the argument. If you look at data and say, oh, cops kill black people, that proves that this is somehow racist because per capita blacks get killed, it's something like, it depends on the study, right? The Harvard study says unarmed whites are more likely to be killed. There's other studies that say unarmed blacks are slightly more likely to be killed. I'll admit I'm not a scientist. I don't know all of the data, but it's not out of control. Like all these people were telling me driving while black, driving while black. Have you seen the statistics of driving while black? And I'm like, okay, fair point. The idea being you get pulled over if you're black. So I looked it up. That's what Destiny said. He said it's not over the murders, right? It's over things like driving while black and economic devastation in the black community. I looked it up. The best study I could find that CNN was pushing said, and this is a left-wing study, said you're 13% more likely to be pulled over for a traffic ticket if you're black than white. Now, there could be reasons behind that. Why is that the case? I don't know. But even if we just accept at face value, it's because they're black. That's why we're burning cities down? Because if a white person has 100 interactions with police in their life where they might get a speeding ticket, black people have 113, and that's why we're burning cities down. You would believe, the way they're talking, that if you're black, you have like a 3,000% more chance to get killed by the cops than white people. It's not true. 9 people last year. 9! Meanwhile, they don't care that 5,000 black people a year in and around there are murdered by other black people predominantly. No one cares about that. I care about that, but you can't focus on that because you're a racist. Well, how about this? I don't care about the black perpetrators. I care about the black victims. How the hell can we have a country where 13% of the population is 50% of homicide victims? That's outrageous. We're failing as a country, those communities, if they're dying like that. I don't care who's killing them. That's what I'm concerned about. What are we going to do to stop the violence against those communities? And I'm told, oh, if you talk about that, you're a racist. It's ridiculous. That's why these problems are, why did it happen at Ferguson? And again, people, like, here's a big take I hear. I'm going way too long here. I don't care. Here's a big take I hear. Well, if they would have just gave these cops up, when situations like this, just give them to the mob. Or instantly throw them in jail for life or execute them. Yeah, like the guy that shot Michael Brown? Oops! Turns out he was innocent, and that was all a lie. Yet we had riots. But hey, if it means appeasing the mob, I guess we should have killed Darren Wilson, right? No! And here's the thing, it's only going to go so long until people on the other side start pushing back. And because the power and culture is all controlled by people that believe that there is systemic racism, when the other side fights back because they're like, we're tired of our communities getting burned down, or now the lessons learned that if you want political power, you have to riot. When the other side starts doing it, which by the way, I'll be against, they'll be cracked down on brutally by the people in positions of power. But that's what we want. That's the incentive we're putting up. Your ability to take ownership does, right, there's a lot of things that can come in. So, one, but a lot of it is self-fulfilling. For example, if you're born in the black community, if you're born in inner city Chicago, you had no choice over that, right? But that's true of people everywhere in every walk of life. So let's say, Nate, that you were born and you were born in a single-parent household in an abusive relationship. Your parent abused you. Do you think at the end of your life, you live to be 75 years old, we'll say, at the end of your life, if your prevailing orthodoxy when you woke up every day was, my life is crap and everything that happened to me is because my dad beat me, do you think your life's going to end up more positive if you think that every day? Or if you think, I had a scummy dad, but I'm going to go out and achieve anyways? How do you think your life's going to end up better? When you sit around and you just say, I'm a victim. I see it in people I personally know. It's not my fault I'm a heroin addict. My parents weren't there for me. Okay, there might be some truth to that, but is that the solution? And how do we know? How do we know that it's all because of racism? Right, people can't dig themselves out. I get that. But what are we going to do as a country? Here's a sad truth. There will always be people that are getting the short end of the stick. Always. Many times it's because of poor decisions they've made. Some people, it's like you could literally be... Look at those commercials that bring tears to your eyes with like Shriners, with kids that get cancer and stuff. It sucks. That's life. That crap's going to happen. What are we supposed to do? Burn down the country because of that? It just sucks. Yes, I was born in many ways with the short end of the stick. I think I'm one of the luckiest people that have ever been born in the world. I could sit around and go, it's not fair. I was born poor. I was in the debate community. Probably came from one of the poorest families of anyone who's ever qualified for the national debate tournament. So, was it fair for me to stand up there and say, oh, you know, this sucks, I'm being disenfranchised. The reason I lost this debate was because I was born in a poor family. No! They got the short end of the stick, but how much of it, what is the root of the short end of the stick? If we just shout racism, how are we ever going to solve it? It's systemic racism. Again, I go back to this. Rush Limbaugh brings on Charlemagne the God. He says, Charlemagne, I'm with you. This murder was outrageous. Our country's on fire. Exactly. That's what I did, Nate. But the country's on fire. What are some real situations? I want to help. I have a big audience. What are some real situations? Trying to bring people from the right to say, look at these problems that are happening in these communities. What can we do to help? And what's Charlemagne the God say? We need to dismantle the system of systemic white supremacy. What does that mean? What does it mean? Okay, now what? And you know this, Nate, because you've been in debate. Everything's racist. Okay, it's not even intentionally racist. Well, yeah, you want a good upbringing, of course. By the way, I had a good upbringing. Like, my parents were awesome. Don't get me wrong. They were just poor. But you see what I'm saying? Like, yes, it sucks to be born in this crappy community. But what are we going to do about it? If we focused on things like poverty, if we focused on the fact that the establishment in both parties have been crushing the average person in this country. Oh, no, Nate, no, please, you know me better than that. I'm not going to get upset about anything. But if we focused on that stuff, then we could make sure that there will always be people born in crappy situations, but we could make sure that you would have a better chance if you were born in that situation, or that there is less of a chance that you were born in that situation. Instead, we embrace the lie, the country is racist, so this is all about race. And I'm like, okay, point out the racist. Show me the racist law. Show me the racist person. I'll be with you. Well, it's not that. It's this implicit racism. It's that all white people implicitly, if you have your invisible knapsack, you have privilege. Okay, so how do we get rid of that privilege? What do? There's no answers. Well, reparations. Okay, so how much money will it take? $50 trillion. We give $50 trillion without solving it? I guarantee whatever money they come up with, reparations, the day after that, if there's an incident of white on black violence, they'd say, implicit bias, racism. There's no solving it. It is clear that the Al Sharptons and the Jesse Jacksons of the world want the racial division to continue. They want it. That's how they get power. And while they have power, while we're focused on racism, meanwhile, the communities of poor people, both black and white, get worse and worse every year. And the middle class is being destroyed because everything is racism. Now we're talking about defunding the police. Now we're talking about making white people kneel to black people. Instead of coming together, instead of saying, oh, we're in this together, we're against things like government brutality and the government not focusing on doing what's best for the people. Instead, we're sitting around saying, well, I don't know, it's not a bad idea that they're burning down Target. It's not bad that they're looting here. Meanwhile, the same people that have gotten insanely rich over us, like Jeff Bezos' Amazon, he's putting out Black Lives Matter stuff. Chase Bank has Black Lives Matter written on their window. Meanwhile, they've been sued for predatory lending to the black community. But because they say Black Lives Matter, well, hey, they solved the problem. No need to focus on Chase Bank and predatory lending to the black community because they said Black Lives Matter. That's all that matters. That's how stupid this is becoming. Right? It's not throwing money at the issue. We should be having a conversation, but you can't have that conversation. Eric Holder said this country's too cowardly to have a conversation about race. No, we're not. I'll have it any day. The problem is, as soon as we start talking about real issues, you say, this is what Eric Holder says, if you don't agree that it's all about racism, then you're a racist. And we're a coward if we don't want to start the conversation with that assumption. Ridiculous. That's not a conversation. That's indoctrination. It's ridiculous. And the black community, first off, they're not monolithic. And I would never presume to give suggestions to the black community. If you're black, all I could do is say my perspective on things. My perspective is, you're being screwed over. They don't care about you. Instead of saying, here's what we're going to do to help your community, you know what they say? The other side's racist. And then every 4 years, you vote for them and nothing gets better. at least you didn't vote for the racist. And again, I don't blame, the blame goes on the Republicans too. What are they doing? Our government, the best we could do is say, we're going to treat people like individuals, not based on skin colors. We're going to help people that are poor. We're going to come up with plans to make sure that people in communities that are in impoverished neighborhoods have a better access to things. And there are things that could legitimately help. Like, over and over, studies show that the best thing for education for these inner cities are school choice and charter schools. Yet somehow, the very Democrats that represent these cities are against that. Why? Because part of their base is the teachers' unions. So you can't have the best education opportunities for black people. And they say, you know, Nate, remember when we debated Milliken? That was one of the topics, right? The Supreme Court decision, Milliken, that was about forced busing. We would talk about charter schools all the time. And this is the argument that people would make. Yeah, but these families don't know how to choose which school is best for their kids. You see, the Democrats think white people, you're smart enough to choose what's best for your kids, but not black people. And we're the racists, though. But how do we increase education in those communities? You just throw more money? We throw more teachers in there? We can't be honest about it. The teachers, go ahead, talk to a teacher I know one. Talk to a teacher that's worked in the inner city. See how that works. It's a war zone in some of these communities. Culturally, you remember when Donovan McNabb got made fun of for not being black enough? How is that possible? When we have set up a culture that encourages this group is all victims, the country owes them something, then something like helping yourself and actually getting an education is something you could make fun of in these cultures. I'm not saying everyone does that, but if you're, go ahead, talk to people that have came out of these. I say it over and over again, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart. If you came out of one of these inner city schools and you achieved, you're better than I'll ever be. I would have failed miserably. I know how I was in high school. I was crap anyways. If I was in a community where it was like all the cool kids were like, don't learn, don't do your homework, come join us, let's smoke some weed after school, that's what I would have been doing. I know it. So what do? We have to address, why are these problems happening? And when the answer is, well, it's because racism, then nothing's ever going to be solved. That's right, it is a tough problem and no one wants to talk about it. And so we because no one will have an honest conversation, what happens is the conversation gets dominated by extremists on both sides. So you got the extremists that are like, oh, it's because black people are inferior. BS. Then you got the extremists that's like, because this country is totally racist. That's why that's happening. Also garbage. And so we just get this virtue signaling crap while the problem gets worse and worse every year. Oh, you know, now it's the NFL. I mean, for God's sakes, I was so furious about all this stuff going, and I've been putting out material. I've been reading. I'm working. I'm putting out videos. I'm writing stuff. Right? I'm trying to debate people from the other side. I'm doing my best to bring attention to this stuff. I'm trying to have an honest conversation. It's depressing. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to turn on sports radio. What do I hear as soon as I turn it on? Oh, and the NFL should be ashamed of how they treated Kaepernick. He was right. Kaepernick was right. I can't even listen to entertainment without it being shoved down my throat. Racist country, racist white people, cops killing unarmed blacks. How is that helping the situation? Yes, we're now at the point where Colin Kaepernick could call this country racist, wear socks with pigs and cops uniforms on it, and just because he didn't explicitly say, oh, and go burn down your community, he's bringing us together. Aren't there two sides of this issue? Can you imagine that people defending the police, if they were all like, well, all these black people, they're all crap. You would be like, outrageous. How dare you say that? But when that side starts with all these police are racist, this is a racist country, we say, oh, yes, that's true. We have to start in that assumption. How can you have a dialogue when one side's telling you, in order to engage in this conversation, you have to admit that people based on their skin color have original sin, and you have to admit that this country is racist, and you have to admit that the police are going out for racial reasons and hunting and killing unarmed black men. That's where the conversation starts for them. And if you don't agree with us, then we're going to riot. And then we'll blame you and say, oh, you were unwilling to have a conversation. Imagine if it was the other way. Okay, we'll have this conversation, but we have to admit that all police are great, and anytime they kill a black man, it's totally justified. Now, once you agree to that, now we could have a conversation. You would say, that's ridiculous. That's not a conversation. That's what we're dealing with, and no one wants to be honest with it. And it's tough because, again, everybody knows it. Everybody knows. Do you suffer? Are you afraid you're going to lose your job if you stand up and you're like, I think that white people in this country have, they're all implicitly racist, and they all have privilege. You worried you're going to lose your job over that? Of course not. Everybody knows. Your boss might be like, I don't believe that, but you ain't going to lose your job. You're not going to face public pressure. But go ahead once and stand up and say the opposite. I think that this stuff's garbage. I think that this narrative that people are riding over, that this is all about racism, is garbage. Go ahead and see what happens. How's Drew Brees doing for saying all lives matter? How'd that work out for him? That's what we're dealing with. So, all right, I gotta go. My mother-in-law's probably watching this going, hey, Rob, you're supposed to be over here weed eating a half hour ago, so... but yeah, I'll be doing this debate. I'll try to put it up. Thanks for sticking with me at 50 minutes. I know these car videos aren't my best, visual and audio quality, but I really appreciate it. Look, Nate, I'm glad Nate's on here. And by the way, let me just real quick say I get crap from some people for trying to reach out to someone like Destiny and to have a conversation with them. Because there are people that are like, they're just happy to be in their little niches, right? Not everyone. Some people don't want to engage in the debate because they think, I don't think he's a good faith actor. That's fine. I thought he did fine. I don't have as far as he treated me with respect. And even though I just extremely disagree with, the idea that any riots are justified, and I extremely find it troubling that he says, yes, it's to get Trump out partially, and that's a good thing. But he was nothing but nice to me. Teach their own, I guess is all I'm saying. But I am trying to make an effort. That's why I'm doing this tonight. To go on, and I'm not going to yell and scream at people and say, you hate this country, screw you. I'm going to say, tell me what your issues are. Even if you say these riots are justified, I'm going to try to keep a calm head and be like, look, this is why this is a bad idea. I'm trying to talk to people from the other side. I really am. I don't have a voice, though. I get 25 people that listen to me. I put the video up with me debating Destiny. I'll be lucky to get 100 people. His video, the same at debate, has 60,000 people that have watched it already. And they all think that I look like a toe and my voice sucks and blah, blah, blah. I'm an idiot. Destiny crushed me. That's fine. But at least I made an effort to talk to people, that I knew 8,000 people watched that debate live. I knew they were all going to dislike me. But I tried to put my best foot forward and show I'm not a raving lunatic. I'm willing to have this discussion. And there's so many people on both sides that are like, nope, I'm happy to not have the discussion because if I just grandstand on my soapbox, then more people will listen to me. And it's tough. It's tough to talk to someone who has a different idea. It's easy to just stay in an echo chamber. And you're afraid that maybe they'll make good points. I don't care. That's why I'm talking. Is there a chance that he could have made a point that I'd have been like, oh, I didn't see it that way? Of course. That's why I'm talking to people on the other side. But even me, I can't tell you how many people, reached out that I've seen make comments like, oh, Rob, you were too easy on him. Oh, man, this conservative guy doesn't know what he's talking about. He should have just screamed at him. How could you believe blah, blah, blah. He should have just said all liberals are cucks. Okay, if that's how you want to operate, that's fine. But then you don't get to say the country needs to come together. And I think that I'm putting out videos that I believe that there are people that we put in positions of power that hate this country and they need to be removed immediately. I truly believe that. But I'm still willing to reach out and talk. Maybe I'm wrong. Let's talk about it. So that's why I do that type of stuff. So I don't know, check the debate out if you want. I thought that I came out sounding really good. I thought that one of the things that happened was, first off, at the end, you could hear my phone's ringing. I had to go because it was work calling. But, that's what everyone wants to focus on, the fact that I supposedly said that if Trump says something racist, it's not his fault, it's the people that leaked its fault. That's not what I was saying. First off, what Destiny implied that Trump said, I hadn't even heard about. Second off, when I looked into it, it wasn't as what Destiny said. Destiny said he wanted to lock peaceful people that were breaking curfew up for 10 years. That's not what he said. It's clear that he was referencing the rioters. Second, even if that is what he said, that's terrible in its own right. But he didn't say that to inflame people. If he said it to inflame people, he would have publicly said it. Instead, he said it in a private conversation. The one who wanted to inflame people was the person that released it. You remember when Trump, and excuse my language here, but I'm quoting, said shithole countries? He said that in a private conversation. That was released by someone because they wanted to say, see, look how horrible Trump is. So when people got furious about it, yeah, maybe you could argue, should Trump be talking like that? But he wasn't the one that was intending to inflame people with that rhetoric. That was the people that released it. That's all I was saying. And again, Trump didn't say what was allegedly said, but if you go on the video and look at the chat, everyone's like, can you believe this guy's trying to say if Trump's a racist, it's not his fault? It's the people that released that he was racist. What a loser. Yeah, literally that was 2 minutes of the debate at the end while a phone's ringing about a comment that was misrepresented that I never even heard. And I was just making the point, yeah, if Trump said that, that's horrible, which is what I say. But it wasn't him saying it to inflame people, because if he said it to inflame people, he would have gotten the microphone and said, if you're out there peacefully protesting, we're going to lock you up for 10 years. He didn't say that. Instead, he said, I'm a supporter of all peaceful protest. So, I don't know. That's the type of stuff that's going on. But anyways, I'm just rambling now, so... Hey, thanks for listening. Stay safe out there. Look, one thing I will say, I'll leave you with the message of hope. Scott Adams, which is someone I think you should follow. I don't always agree with him, but he thinks about things in such a different way. And he's saying yesterday, the riots will continue. Lockdowns are going to continue. But we've hit the crest of the wave. We've survived the worst of it. Right? So, the job report numbers came out today. That's good. I'm not someone, I'm disgusted by people that think, well, I'm cheering for bad news because it will help or hurt my political side. I don't care if my political side loses every election from here to the rest of my lifetime, if it means the country's doing better. So the job reports sound good. Hopefully the riots are dying down. Even if I disagree with the racial narrative of the protesters, they have the right to be out there and protest. So hopefully we've crested the wave. That doesn't mean that we still can't be outraged at what's going on. We still can't be... that we've seen that people in positions of leadership are supporting this rioting or giving lip service to it or deflecting for it. You know, that doesn't mean we shouldn't be outraged, but maybe we crested the wave. So I'm going to go weed eat and not think about this crap for a while. And then I'll be back on tonight at 8:30. I'll ask the people if I could broadcast the debate in my channel as well. But if not, I'll put a link up to their channel. And actually, I'll just put a link to their channel because here's something you might not have known about me. My equipment's so crappy that if I try to do a Zoom call and stream at the same time, it just dies on me. So but yeah, I'll put out a link for that later. So off the weedy. Thank you all so much for listening. Please stay safe. Thank you, Nate, specifically for being on here. Nate, I don't know, do you have any social media that you wanted to plug or something? Paul, thank you as well. Thank you everyone that's on here. Moonglow, thank you. Sorry if I didn't get to everyone's comments because I'm in the phone. It's just little, they come up for like 5 seconds, but yeah, Nate's a great guy, and it's proof that, you know, me and Nate might be on different ends of the spectrum politically, but I think we both trust that we both are moral people, and it's great to hear people. Yeah, I would love to have you on the show. I know we talked about it before, but I'd love to have you on sometime and we could talk about this stuff. But all right, everyone, thanks so much. Have a good one.